The artist says Stinney's wrongful execution touched her so much that she wanted to use her art to tell his story. Artist Renee says this is her interpretation of the electric chair used to kill 14-year-old George Stinney Jr. back in 1944. The chair is on display at the University Art Gallery in downtown Florence.
And it just touched me, and I said, well, people need to know this story.
Stinney was executed for the murders of 2 young girls in Clarendon County. Back in 2014, a judge overturned Stinney's murder conviction, saying the state did a great injustice when it executed him.
He didn't have a voice, so I wanted this piece to basically give him a voice.
Renee says she used an old rocking chair she bought at a yard sale to visualize Stinney's execution. The chair has ropes, straps, wires, angels, blue bottles, lights, and a glass plate with a faint image of Stinney.
You see a face, which I used a portrait of him, but I didn't want you to see really his face.
And she says this Bible also makes a statement.
They say their last rites of passage, or basically, when they're getting ready to be executed. But more importantly, I heard that he had to sit on a Bible because he was so small.
The chair is on display with other works of art as part of the Jamestown Foundation's No Place Like Home exhibit.
This piece really it speaks to people, because you think about you're at 14 years old, you're playing, you're innocent, and all of a sudden you're cast into the limelight of doing something, a tragedy that you really didn't do.
The person who is in charge of the art gallery say people literally stop in their tracks when they see the chair.
For Habitat leaders say that process will take some time, but they do hope that their plan starts to come to fruition in the coming months. The city of Myrtle Beach is rapidly growing, breaking records from tourism to a booming housing market.
Hospitality and tourism employees, specifically those who doesn't, right now they have to commute a lot.
That's one reason Habitat for Humanity is trying to get workforce housing in the city. Also, Myrtle Beach's middle income earners like teachers, nurses, and police can afford to live where they work. They partnered with the city in November and have been getting community input ever since. Today, Habitat's Chad Charles presented newly researched ideas before City Council.
Just gathering all that data to see what's best for the city of Myrtle Beach.
Looking at other cities to model how they do workforce housing.
Charleston and Greenville.
But there's one big idea Charles's team wants to look into, something called a local housing trust fund.
It's private and public dollars that can be put into a pool to help incentivize developers.
So when you look at the local housing trust fund, could neighbors expect any kinds of tax increases or anything of that nature?
So I think it's too early in the process to determine whether that's the case or not. Certainly once we get past the research phase of this, which would end in January, all of this information has to go to City Council.
But workforce housing has been a topic of discussion before in Myrtle Beach. What do you say to people who say that this conversation has been happening for a long time and it's really time for change?
There has to be healthy discussions, and they're usually long term. It's not one of those times it's going to die. I feel comfortable that the city's going to take these plans, the strategic plans, and begin to run with them.
And Charles says he hopes within the next year there's some movement on the design and implementation on workforce housing, which he says can be anything from dormitory style housing to apartments to single family homes. He says it works best if those things are sprinkled throughout the city.
Yeah, that's a necessary trip for most of us, right? Going to the grocery store. So today I drove from Myrtle Beach to Conway and Carolina Forest, and while some of you say you're pulling these out of wherever you had them stored, others say they have no plans to wear them. Grocery shoppers along the Grand Strand seem to be split down the middle when it comes to wearing a mask. A day after the CDC changed the recommendation to say even those who got the COVID-19 vaccine should be wearing a mask in public indoor settings, some say they're right there with them.
The pandemic's not over with yet, and now we're having a different type of virus come in. It's making it even worse than it already was from before.
Now that different type is the Delta variant, and the reason for the change. The director of South Carolina's health agency, Dr. Traxler, says as the virus spreads, it mutates into a more contagious form. Now, the Delta variant is infecting people who are vaccinated.
I'm 69, I want to live to be 105, hope if I can live that long.
A teacher says she's backing the recommendation too.
I am vaccinated. I would feel more comfortable going back to school with everyone being masked.
She says she wants to protect her students, but also her child at home, and that takes cooperation.
I would like the CDC and our government to be able to be on the same page. They should be following the guidelines set forth of people who know better than they do.
Some didn't want to be on camera, as masks and the vaccine are still controversial subjects. One woman says she feels protected enough by the vaccine, and another says with so much back and forth, she doesn't trust the agencies. Dr. Traxler says this change was not anticipated, but with such low vaccination rates, we couldn't reach herd immunity in time before a new variant emerged. And with that, Dr. Traxler says the #1 way to end the pandemic is to still get the vaccine. While the Delta variant is strong enough for some people to still be infected by COVID-19, the chances of that person dying or going to the hospital is still very low.